All right, welcome to episode 11 of the Zone's All Access and the fourth Pit Pass hosted by the Sports Center. Tonight I'm back in the garage and my guest is Mitchell Burke, driver of the 54 Sportsman car, commonly seen at Tazewell Speedway. He brought with him
That's my daughter,
Abby,
soon to be crew chief.
crew chief in training. Before we start, I need to thank my team of marketing partners. I also need to thank my premier partners, Whitaker Insurance, Walker & Walker Construction, Harshside Bank, Stay and Play Doggy Daycare, and more, J&S Concrete Pumping, and Value RX Pharmacy, Tazewell, Tennessee. So let's get started. First of all, thank you for coming down.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Talk about where you're from, and did you play any sports growing up?
I've been here my whole life, and as far as sports, I dabbled a little bit, and it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Trying to do that, of course, with the race car, that was Dad's whole preaching. It was racing, and it just kind of stuck. So I'd rather be turning inches as I would be throwing a football.
Did you play football?
I did a little bit for a couple of years, and I got to where I'd rather be at the garage than go to practice and stuff like that. And it just wasn't for me.
Okay. Motor sports your favorite, or just something compelled you to go there? I mean, it was just the excitement of being around your dad.
Yeah.
And at the racetrack at the same time, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was growing up at the races, and the older I got, the more I'd see, even like going to different tracks. How many people knew Dad just because of racing? And,
Yeah.
And I said I always wanted something like that. And luckily, I've been fortunate enough to go to different tracks and people recognize me. That's a pretty cool feeling. So, no, I don't see myself really doing anything else other than maybe fishing if I retire.
I remember you as a kid, you'd in the pits, you would run to anybody that needed help. You were willing to help. Now, talk about those days.
Growing up with Dad, I mean, he wanted me there in the garage and everything like that. But of course, not knowing, a whole lot about him at the time, and he was always going and going, and that just how I wanted to be like that because I'd see him do it. In the pits, he'd be working on his own stuff and then be over here helping two or three others, and I just started doing that. That helped me learn a lot of things, and just
As a kid, running around helping people, what did you learn that you used later on in your own racing?
I learned a lot of do's and a whole lot of don'ts. Just different knick-knack stuff that you wouldn't think would make a difference, and then later on you reflect back to things that you've seen on different people's cars and stuff, and you think wow, that makes a difference, but looking at it, it wouldn't. So I've picked up on little stuff like that, like different things you could do to make cars a whole lot better suited for you than it would be for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, your dad was your idol, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
He was a great driver, awesome driver. Talk about watching him.
Growing up, when I was little, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention, but the older I got, the more involved I got in it. Watching him and just you see somebody that drives a truck, all week long, and they jump in a race car, and you just wouldn't think that it would grow on you as much. And then I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. I didn't think until he finally retired, and I started driving, and I thought, wow, I'm gonna miss, seeing him race and stuff like that. And
yeah,
he talked to me now. He tells me now that I make him a nervous wreck, and I was like, I get it. I was nervous when you raced. I said, so I'm gonna guess I'm getting some payback here.
What was your favorite moment with seeing your dad race?
My favorite moment, hands down have to be his last win. He got back in '02. It was it was on the 4th of July. I can remember. I cannot remember it was a memorial race, but that was the last time that he had won, and he was driving for Eddie Yance at that time, and he just with his health and stuff and his having neck problems, that he just didn't really get into it real hard like he did at the end. So that'll go down as my favorite. So at least he's still around. And I was fortunate enough to get to see him win his last one.
In your opinion, why didn't he want to go to the late models?
Well, in his words, like I've asked him several times, I was like, it's always been street cars. And even, Mitch Houston, he asked him several times, you need to buy you one, goat, you need to buy you one. And he'd flat out tell you, I don't know a thing about them, can't figure it out.
All right. You as a kid, you always wanted to drive, I'm sure. What did your dad say to you about driving? And how many times did you say, you're too young?
A lot. I started aggravating. I guess it was right after I got my license. And he would see how I was driving on the street, and he said that there was no way he put me in a race car that early that I'd flat out get killed. And but when he finally got to where he just couldn't do it no more, he was talking about selling everything. I said, "Why?" And I said, "Why don't you just let me take it over?" He said, "What in the world would I want to do that for?" I said,
That sounds like him.
I said, "If you don't want me to race," I said, "that's fine." I said, "But why sell everything?" I said, and he said, well, "I just can't do it no more." And I said, "Well, just give me a shot." I said, "If I tear anything up," I said, "I'll fix it. If it takes me a year, it takes me a year." I said, "I'll fix it." And the very first night that he let me drive, I pulled out for qualifying the old modified street, and I tore the transmission, the clutch, drive shaft, rear end, everything out of it. And it took me about 3 months to get the money to save up to fix it back, and that was my start of addiction. So, and I don't regret anything I've tore up over the years.
That's a start. I mean, what year was that? And
2013.
it took you 3 months. Did you race again? I'm sure you did.
No, he actually got the car fixed back, but
Okay.
until I was able to drive again, I had to pay for what I tore up. And
Yeah.
I'd seen him, go to Buddy Hobson's and West Haven and stuff and get parts, and it never did register in my mind. He's forking out a lot of money, and it'd be for little stuff, and that big. I think it was like $1,600 or something like that to fix it all back. It really hit me, and I was like, okay, I understand now why you don't let me drive. But I've saved up, and he let me drive again. So,
Okay. What was your first car? I mean, we talked about it then, but describe in detail what it was and what class did you run in?
it was an old Monte Carlo that we bought when Dad drove for Leonard Bray. They built it up there at Lewis Epperson's, and Leonard got tired of fooling with two cars, so Dad bought his half out, and we kind of struck out on our own. And I mean, looking at it, the poor old thing didn't look nothing special, but it was a tank. That thing, you could beat the crap out of it and not hurt it, and that's a good place to start if you're going to start racing. Is a good old solid street car.
Okay. What did you learn by starting out in the street class?
Mostly the basic command, mechanic type things, and just little knick-knack stuff like that. And of course, you wouldn't think on them cars that air pressure would mean so much, but that's just like running these late models. It's the same way. And if I was to go out here Saturday and jump in a street car, I'd probably be fired before I hit the track, just because little stuff like that would change the drive of the car, the way it handled it. I mean, 1 pound of air would make it be the worst car on the track or the best car on the track. There was no really in between, and it really makes you focus on the little details and stuff like that, and like where your brakes are set. And you, I've heard I don't know how many people say brake. You don't need brakes in a race car. You do.
Yeah, you do. Okay. How long was it before you got back in the car?
It was. I tore it up. It was the first race of the year, and he drove it up until I think it was July 4th race. I'm thinking, and I stripped the U joint out, and so that put me out again. And then I got back in on my birthday at the end of that year, and my first actual full race, I finished. I think it was fourth. Yeah, Tony Horton won. Yeah, and Robbie was second, and then David Clark, and then me.
Okay. When did the first win come? And what did your dad think about that?
That's actually pretty funny. That was it was in 2019, and at that point we'd been in late models for 4 or 5 years, something like that, and just struggled, couldn't ever figure them out, and then finally Red Chapman started getting help from Ryan King and Derek Sexton, and all them fellers down there, great group of people, Mike Knuckles, and started learning a little more and more and more about them, and then bought Ryan's former crate car that he had, which is the car I run up till last year, and I won. Honestly, it was one of them that was pretty much a gift to me because the two fastest cars took each other out, but a win's a win.
It is.
But it didn't really hit me until I was coming off the track going across the scales, and I was the first one to go across the scales, and he hit me. I was like, I just won my first race, And I was like, I got to get to Dad. I got to get to Dad. We've worked so hard at this. I pull up in victory lane. I'm taking stuff off. I see Dad coming. I thought, this is great. And he leans in the car and he says, "How hot did it get?" And I said, "Who cares right now, Dad?" I said, "I just won." He said, "How hot did it get?" I said, I looked at the gauge. I said, "It's at 210." He set a Gatorade down. He said, "Okay, good," and just walked off. And I was like, that's great. I won my first race, and he's worried about how hot it is. But no, I joke with him all the time. I was like, I'm going to count that first one. I said, "You wasn't even real excited." He said, "Yeah, I was." He said, "But I want to make sure that motor was okay too."
Wanted you back in next week.
Oh yeah.
How does a late model different between your pure streets and your modified streets or street stocks? Your opinion.
To me, the hardest thing I had to adapt was as far as the driving, the steering of it. Back then, the old modified streets, you had to wheel in things, and I mean, these guys that are still running these hard body, street cars and stuff like that, or just any street car really, and the speeds that they're carrying out, hats off to them guys because that was a workout. And then you jump in a late model and you depend on more about the rear end driving it. And a late model, and Matt Tharp told me, I said, "You don't drive a late model with the steering wheel. You drive it with the gas and the brake." They said, "You just hold the steering wheel, you get that down pat," and said, "You're good to go." And it took a lot of body panels to finally figure it out.
Do you have any hopes one day being a champion at Tazewell or another track?
Yes, sir. We thought we had finally got us one there back in 22. It was probably the best year that I've had racing, and 3 weekends of bad luck in a row, it knocked us out of it. We had a big old wreck. Car landed on top of us. Got it all fixed back. I told Dad, I said, "We should really take this motor out and go get checked." It took a breather and everything off of it. Of course, Dad, being old school like he is, reaches in, fires the car up, revs it up 2 or 3 times. He says, "Sounds just fine to me." then the next weekend burnt 2 Pistons.
Hmm.
And then I had to miss the third weekend, and we ended up losing the championship by, I think it was like 52 points or something like that year.
What dreams do you have behind the wheel of a car? I mean, what far out there? What's a dream you'd like to achieve or like to come true? You know.
Run a super. I mean, we took that old modified street motor and made that our steelhead, so to speak. And it's just a baby. But nah, I've been fortunate enough. We've took that little steelhead and we've run with some great people. Ray Cook, my Shapers. We've run with them several times. I've been fortunate to run one Lucas race at Tazewell. Never did run on World Outlaws, but yeah, getting a super, get a little bit of backing or something like that, maybe going on a small tour, like a Schaefer or something like that. That's what I've always wanted to do. Just say, if I suck, at least I can say, hey, I drove a super, and if I do good, hey, I done good in a super.
Okay, who all is currently helping you, and who's your crew? I mean,
right now it's me and my dad, and my wife, and my little buddy that I call him little. I don't know why he's bigger than me. Me and him's been friends since high school. Trevor Gully. He kind of just we started talking on Facebook one day about racing, and I was like, "Man, why don't you come down and hang out?" He come down while I was working on the car. Well, he jumped right in there and went to help, and I said, "Why don't you just?" I said, "You like going to races?" I said, "Why don't you just hang out with me, work on a race car?" And I said, "I can't pay you, but I'll feed you." And I guess that was the right thing to say because he stuck it out with me. This is year number 5 that he's been. He stuck right there, and I've had a couple of buddies, here and there. It's helped, and of course, family things. They've kind of went and done their own thing, but he stuck right there with me, so I don't think I can fire him now.
Did you race last Saturday?
I did. Yes, sir.
How'd you do?
We got this new car, and we're still trying to figure it out. We've got some different shocks and stuff like that. Just hadn't really been able to learn, and
I think it was a top 5, wasn't it?
At third, yes.
Third, yeah.
At the third all night, so I'm gonna chuck that up as I drove for Dale because we hot lap third, qualified third, finished third. The track was phenomenal, and I'll take that over having to load it with a tractor any day.
Oh yeah. Who's your sponsors this year?
This year we've been very fortunate, and we've got a few new ones, and I couldn't do it without everything that they've done for me. Buddy Hobson, Walker, Excavating, Zach and Clint, wonderful people. They've been with me now for 3 years. Greer Holland over Greer, he come on board this year. Fox Shocks has really helped out. Mike Knuckles, we kind of took a few years away from really speaking a whole lot, and I've just been bouncing ideas off him, and he's been a real big help. DJ's Performance, Race Engines, old Travis over there. Elite Racing Supply, Manual, Austin Helton. If you've got a street stock, that's mainly what they deal with, but they've got all kinds of safety stuff, helmets and whatnot. Great people. Team PPM. PPM Race Products, awesome people. I've kind of worked with them for the past few years. Hunter Kennedy has been wonderful. If I've had any questions at midnight, I could send him a message, asking if he's got something. He's got to pull the computer out. And, yeah, we've got it stocked. Or no, I can order it for you and I can have it turned Monday. And I mean, that's awesome customer service.
Do you still have a network of people in this county that you swap parts when needed and stuff like that with?
Oh yeah. One of my good buddies, Tyson Britt, which he lives right there in Manorville, just on the other side of the bridge, I call it. But oh Lord, yeah, we swap all the time, and of course Donnie Petty. If we've got anything they need it, vice versa.
Yeah, it's always been good.
Oh yeah, anybody really. I mean, I try to get along with anybody until I have a reason not to. But if somebody I don't like, I mean, I'm all about somebody going racing because the way I see it, if somebody's at the track and they're tearing a car up, okay, cool. They could be out doing something else, especially somebody young. Because I remember being that kid, But oh yeah, anybody can holler at me if I've got it and I've got it to spare. Come get it.
That's awesome. Uh, who do you want to thank?
Uh, Dad first and foremost, because for some unknown reason he's not fired me yet, and of course my mom, my wife, my youngins, uh, old Trevor, and all my awesome sponsors and the fans. I never really thought I would have as many people that I've seen, cheer if I do good, or
Yeah.
boo if I do good, and being a local racer or something like that. But I mean, the last time I won in 22, I figured it'd just be, a few courtesy cheers, but there was quite a few, and that's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if I never win again, I've got the memories and the people that do cheer and the people that know me and talk to me. If I go up in the stands and stuff like that, and it's just I remember being like that. I remember like these big shots like Lucas guys and stuff coming around. Go and talk to them like Scott Blomquist, who I was very fortunate enough to be able to hang out with, the past couple of years, thanks to old Fireball Roberts. We just, I, he showed me a lot too, and I'll forever cherish that. Times that he'd be super busy, and he'd take the time to call me back. He'd check his voicemail, call me back, and help me work through stuff. Jimmy Owens, I've talked to him I don't know how many times on the phone, just something random, and he'd be at a race somewhere, and he'd be like, "Hold that thought, let me call you back." He'd go out and run a heat race, come back in, call me back, and he'd be like, "Now, what was it again?" And just little stuff like that. If I quit today and I sold out everything I had, not a thing I could be mad about, memory wise.
What expense keeps more people from joining, the racetrack scene, uh, driving race cars, building them? What's the one expense that everybody worries about?
Right now, it'd have to be tires. They've gotten so outrageous, and there's so many tire compounds out there. You don't know which way to go, and it's I'm still one of them that I'm hitting up all these big guys. If you got anything taken off, thing blistered, let me know. I'll buy them. But that and honestly, the way the technology has come through with all these chassis and stuff and the shocks, the shock technology is ridiculous. It just I could you could have a car and I could go out here and buy the same shocks you've got, but you've got so and so working on your stuff and I've got so and so working on mine. They could be the same identical shocks, but they could be built the same. But because of who done it and just the little stuff that you can do inside them shocks, that person you'll flat out walk off and leave me, and I'll be back in the left field. It's competition with the technology stuff is really what's hindering a lot of people and cars.
Yeah.
You've got well, it's just like sportsmen. You know, when that class first started, that's what I told Dad. I said, if we're gonna get into this, we're gonna get into sportsmen. We don't need nothing fancy. It was supposed to be built for the, coming by for the working man. And for the most part, like these little tracks like Tazewell and stuff like that, that's mainly what you've got. You don't have like these brand new cars, stuff like that. But you go to, 411 when it was running Bulls Gap or, something like that. You've got these $40,000 cars running for $800.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you got the money to spend $40,000 on your car, just save you a little bit more, spend you another 40,000 and go run supers. And they know they can do that, and it's easy money to them, and that's what kills a lot of people as far as getting a car. I think I've seen numerous people buy a car, go out there and try, they're like, hey, we're getting run off and left, we're not even nowhere close. We don't need a car, and just up and sell it without giving it time or just wait. But as far as expense wise, it on a local side of it, it'd have to be tires and shocks. Is what's really hurting people.
What would you say to somebody that's wanting to race and jump right into the big cars and pass go karts up and just jump into a street stock or whatever they call them now?
Right.
What advice would you give?
Honestly, I mean, if that's what you if that's really what you want to pursue, do it, but don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
I did that. I don't know how many times when I first started. I'd go out there and spin out, and I always felt like people was making fun of me. So I was like, I don't want to do this no more. If I'm going to keep spinning out, I want people to laugh at me. I don't want to do this, and I've stuck with it, and I've had a lot of success over the years. Not a whole lot, but enough that I can say I've won a few, and I've come to know a lot of great people just from racing that I've like Bloomquist and Owens, from seeing them on TV, stuff like that, to actually spending time with them and talking racing and stuff like that. I never would have got to. I'd have give up racing and went and maybe, let's say, play football.
Yeah. Talk about the sports family. We kind of got into that, but the sports family, the racing family. It's just an amazing bunch of people. And, you fuss and fight amongst themselves a lot of times, but in the end, most of the times they'll help you.
Oh yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Heck, I've unfortunately done it myself. I've got into it with people at the racetrack. Hate each other with a passion, and of course, get the standard 2-bar weekend. And come back and be standing at the driver's meeting like nothing ever happened. And now, don't know why, but I've made some pretty cool friendships from getting into it with somebody at the races. So it ain't all bad, but you do got something that'll take it a little too far. But a couple skin up knuckles and a busted nose ain't never killed nobody. And if we can come back and shake hands afterwards, and you can borrow my carburetor, and I can borrow a tire and wheel, I'll chuck that up as a win.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk directly to the race fans. I mean, we need to support local racing all we can, and especially our local tracks. Talk directly to the race fan and just say what you want to say.
Come out, hang out with us. Bring the kids, absolutely. Because I was that kid once, and they don't do things like they used to anymore. Sexton, when he would win, all the kids in the stands. If any kid wanted to come take a picture, come on. That was a huge thing.
Yeah.
You just see kids now. They'll come up to the fence, and they'll give you a thumbs up. Whether we win, lose, wreck, whatever, that's awesome. That makes our night. So absolutely, if you've never been, come. I promise you won't have a bad time. You might have a headache from the noise, but you won't have a bad time. But in any sport, not just racing, if you like football, I've seen better. I've went to some high school football games that has been better than NFL.
Oh yeah.
Just wonderful stuff. But any kind of sport, if you're passionate about it and you can get to some kind of sport, an event like that, go. It beats sitting at the house any day, and we need more people in the stands and the stadiums, or in the bleachers. Period, anywhere. But of course, racing.
Okay, you want to talk about your social media page or pages? Where can they find you at?
I just look me up on Facebook. I tried the whole racing page deal, and honestly, I kept forgetting about it because I was so used to just having my own personal page.
Yeah.
And I'd forget to check it. And then when I finally would check it, I was like, oh, I ain't shared this. I ain't shared this. And no, just hop on Facebook and look up Mitchell Burke. It's my personal page. I'll talk to anybody. I'm not one of them people, I have to get back with you, or no, shoot me a message. I'm either at the garage or on the couch. I'm always available, and I'll answer any kind of question I need to.
All right. Thank you two for coming down.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for having
And
us.
thank you all for watching. And we'll probably see you next time, which may be tomorrow. If everything goes good, I'm going to be back up at Rex's, the Sports Center, with a episode 12, sounds like. And I'll have more on that tomorrow. But thanks to our marketing partners, our premier partners, and First Century Bank for providing our communications as always. I will see you next time, and God bless.